What's going on, YouTube? As y'all can see by the title and the thumbnail, I'm going to be putting y'all into a little bit of sauce on how I'm able to travel 4 to 5 times a year with a regular 9 to 5. Like, feel me? I know it's like, it sounds realistic to some people, and then for some people, it seems a little bit on the harder side. I get it. It's understandable. You know, times is hard, and I get it. But if y'all follow these easy steps that I'm about to provide with y'all, y'all might be able to just do the same thing. It's really not that hard if you put your mind to it and you just follow these simple steps that I'm going to pretty much lay out for y'all on how I do it the way I do it. So y'all probably thinking like, yeah, she lives with her mom. She has no bills, no nothing. She just works really hard, which y'all are wrong. So here's my thing. I'm 25. I've been almost doing it for 2 years. Let me break it down. I used to live in New York. Now I live in Connecticut. The transition was pretty hard for me. I'm not going to lie, y'all. The transition was hard. I was used to being outside, used to spending a lot of money, used to taking my money and buying expensive stuff. And I've had my car almost 4 years now. Well, pretty much roughly around that. You know what I'm saying? And it was hard. In New York, my car note was really high and my insurance. It made it hard for me to do a little bit of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest, I was more intrigued about going outside. You know, I was single. So, like, for me, it was just like I was just living that life right there. You know, just going outside and doing little stuff. Feel me? Enjoying myself. Which, you know, everybody reaches that phase at one point in their life where they just want to enjoy. Now I'm a little older. I moved to Connecticut, and I kind of humbled me a little, just a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it made me change my whole lifestyle. So this goes for anybody that lives anywhere. You could live anywhere. You just got to follow these steps right here. So the pretty easy part about it is that you don't have to put too much thought. You know what I'm saying? Whether you're traveling with friends or you're doing a solo travel, you know what I'm saying? Don't think, oh yeah, I have so many bills, I'm not able to do this. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people take a year to plan one trip. I'm the person that I don't really plan too much because I came across a better way that I realized whether you're planning a year and ahead or you're planning 4 months before, it still equals the same amount, no matter what's what. And eventually when you start traveling a little more often, you kind of know like, where is more cheaper, where is expensive during certain times of the year. And you just kind of plan accordingly. So I kind of developed that mindset since I've moved to Connecticut, if I should be real, that, listen, like, everything I have to prioritize. And a lot of people don't do that within our age group. They don't prioritize a lot of stuff because they're so caught up on social media, TikTok, you know, Snapchat, and how other people are living that they kind of get lost in the sauce. You know what I'm saying? But when your head is on the swivel, you're always going to be in a good route. So, yes, I do live with my mom. I do help. I do have my own bills. And I kind of summed up how much my bills accumulate to a month, which that kind of helps a lot. I'm on top of my bills more than I'm on top of everything else. So I'm able to tell myself daily or weekly how much I'm able to put together and what I could do. So here are the first stuff that you have to do when it comes to being able to travel 4 times. Even if you're able to travel 2 times a year, I get it. A lot of people probably not able to take the time off or, you know, having the flexibility, which that part I totally understand. I found something that worked for me. I found 2 jobs that was open with flexibility that helps me to maneuver how I want to maneuver and still have an outside life. But here's the thing. I don't have an outside life. Not because I don't want to. And it's not because of me wanting to travel. Because of where I live, I'm forced to not have an outside life. Because at the end of the day, yeah, I do work 2 jobs. And I do work both of my jobs. Accumulating, depending on and off, could be 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week. And I get it. It sounds crazy, but it's really not hard when you're coming from New York that nothing like we don't stop working and we don't stop moving. We get off at 11, we outside by 12. I get it. Connecticut humbled me enough to understand that there's no outside life. I could choose to because Boston's not far, New York is not far, Rhode Island is not far. But the time I take to drive and go outside, I already accumulated I could be booking my flight. And it's the first thing I have to do. Before even thinking if this is possible to happen, you gotta plan where you wanna go. That's the first step. This takes a lot, you know what I'm saying? I do a lot of researching. I do appreciate the little YouTubers that do put out content out there that really helps us when it comes to traveling. I don't search up anything else on YouTube besides traveling, to be honest. So I search up random places that I feel like I want to visit. That's step one, search where you want to go. Step two, plan when you want to go, when you're free. Like I said, if you follow my way, you might not need a plan 7 months, 8 months ahead. I get it. You got bills. I get it. You might have a child that you have to take care of, or you just might not get that time off work. But hey, if you feel like you're in a job where you feel like you're closed in to the outside world, to living your life, to exploring, and you might not just be making enough, maybe that's just not the job for you if you choose that traveling is what you want to do, which that's what I want to do. So here's what you do. First, you might just want to consider a different job, to be honest. Consider a job that is open flexibility, that you're able to take time off without having to put physical PTO, or being able to have a schedule that you're off on the weekends. Because listen, 48 hours out the country works perfectly fine for me. And it might just work for you also. You know what I'm saying? And understand the job that you have of how much you're getting paid, because that does make a difference in what you're able to accumulate while trying to go out the country. Because you don't want to be only making a certain amount and then expect to book a trip that's going to cost you way more than what you could afford. So with these steps, which is step one, figuring out where you want to go, do your research as much as you can. Do your research in terms of how much the cost is going to be to stay in that country and how much the flights is going to be. That's going to reroute you to how much you need for this trip and how much time you have. Then you kind of want to pay attention to the flights. If we get the job part out the way, like I said, you just want to pay attention to the flights. Every day, check the flights. Eventually, you'll kind of know like which day the flights is cheaper, which day the flights is more expensive. But if you follow step one and you do your research and you do more than enough, you'll realize that a lot of people go there around different times of the year. And if they have a good YouTube video that breaks down all of that, you kind of have that insight already. So you know, like, all right, during January, it's a little bit more expensive. Or during summer, it's cheaper. You just kind of know. And then you want to kind of put it in your head like, damn, I want to be in this country in 3 months' time. And then you kind of just work towards that. But the second part is constantly checking the flights and having an understanding of when it's the most cheapest and when does it work for you. That helps a lot, because right then and there, you're able to know like, well, in 3 months, I could afford this plane ticket. That's part two right there. But we're going to hold on. We're going to add in a little bit. Pause. I know a lot of people like doing round trips. I get it. Round trips seems a little bit more easier. So I get it. Round trip seems a little bit more easier, right? It kind of feels a little bit more secured. But here's how I'm able to travel as much times throughout the year without it seeming more of a cost, than a normal. A round trip, you see the price, it kind of scares you away. I get it. For me personally, let's just put it here that we want to travel to St. Martin, right? And you just so happen to put in random dates. And this is the thing. When you're traveling, don't be only closed into just one date. If you want to travel 4 times throughout the year, be very mindful. Write down 4 places that you might want to go to for the 4 times throughout the year. And you're going to pretty much weigh out when it's cheaper, when it's more expensive, and what time is the best time to go. So, okay, I want to travel to St. Martin within 3 months time period, right? And round trips kind of coming off a little bit too expensive. It's always good to kind of weigh out different airlines. It's no problem. You might have an airlines that is to your liking, but just might not go to that country. Or, you might have this airline that you always stick to. No, always be open to different airlines that you feel comfortable flying with. We have St. Martin here that we want to try to attempt to travel to within 3 to 4 months time frame. That's a good time. We're in January. We're aiming for April. Cool. Round trip is kind of a little scary right now. It's looking like $635. This is what I tend to do. I tend to break it down into one way. It's just like walking in the store. When you see something for $600, you kind of walk out. But then you go somewhere else, you see it for $130, you would take the $130, right? Kind of have that in your head in the same time. But we're going to stick a pin and come back to that. The flight is currently $150 one way. Yeah, it just sounds pretty exciting. I know, I get it. So the flight is currently $150 round trip. Oh, that sounds perfect. Oh, we're going to do 3 days. That's cool, right? Then we kind of look at it, because you want to bear in mind, if you want to do it round trip because you do have the money at that time, trust me, do what's best for you. But here's my method that literally doesn't cost me, because bear in mind, we're trying to make it efficient that you could be going in a group or you could be going by yourself. We want to be able to save money and also, be very mindful of how much we're taking away. So people could be possibly only getting $500 a week. They might not want to just take up $400 or $600 for a round trip flight. They're going to be left with nothing at the end of the week. So here's a little easier way. You look on a one-way ticket and it's currently $150. Sounds pretty good, right? You look on it one way coming back now. All right, seems pretty alarming. It's probably $270, $350. We are aware that it's two different airlines. Always weigh out your options within the airports. I get it. A lot of people feels like, oh, it's too much to do a round trip. It's too much to do going through one airport and coming back through another. I get it. You might not live in a state that you have that option. I do live in Connecticut. Yes, I do have an airport that's not too far, but it doesn't really work out in my favor sometimes. So Boston is an option for me and New York is an option. So I tend to weigh out all of my options, and New Jersey, which New Jersey is pretty much the same hours to get to New York. So I weigh out all my options, and you're going to realize as you're traveling, you have to be open to a lot of stuff. You can't just stay and think that round trip is the only thing, non-connecting flights. You got to be open, because that's what it is about traveling. It's not always about where you're going. It's about the journey that you take to go to where you're going. So I'm always open. I know it feels crazy. It's like jet lag. It's like, wow, connecting. Anything could go wrong, but it's what you make the most out of it. So if you're surrounded by multiple different airports, always weigh out your options. And I get it. Round trip sometimes do give you an option to fly from one airline to another. But when you're doing one-way tickets, you have way more options. You have different airports that's nearby. Like I said, if that's something that's in your state or where you at, that you have the options to weigh it out, you could always do that. So a one-way ticket is roughly about $150. We get it. We see the returning ticket. It's a little bit more, but we're also bearing in mind how much time we have. We're trying to make this happen within 4 months, and round trip is about $550, let's say. And doing the math, a one-way ticket going and a one-way return does kind of come out to a little cheaper. So, 9 times out of 10, you want to take the cheaper route. That's step 3, weighing out your options, whether it's round trip or one-way. I've been traveling last year. I traveled 5 times for last year, and not one of my tickets were round trip, like not even one. And I went to different places and not one of them were round trip. They were all one way, and it worked out perfect in my favors. And I get it. A lot of people are a little bit more organized, and it's nothing to do with being organized, y'all. It's just finding a method that works for you to be able to do what you do. And like I said, bringing back, okay, we have 4 months remaining and we get this one-way ticket out the way of only $150. Does that hurt your paycheck? Not really. I know a lot of people's circumstances is pretty different, and I get it. But when it comes to investing in yourself and, doing stuff that you want to do, at the end of the day, you got to spend money to make money. And just like that, you got to spend money to experience the stuff that you want to experience. You could be cheap, you could save, but that doesn't mean that you limit your options. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're able to do it and you're able to put in an extra 8 hours, put in an extra 8 hours for that 150. You know what I'm saying? Pick up an extra job for that money that you want to, use to travel. So 150 flight is booked for the week. We have 4 months to book the returning ticket of only, let's bear in mind, 250, 300 realistically. It sounds a lot, I get it, but we're going to use this method here, right? It's only 250, it's 300. Whether you have Uber Eats, whether you have any type of delivering options that you probably have extra time, or you want to pick up extra hours. I get it. It's probably hard to do that also. But listen, don't stress yourself. You have 4 months to book that returning ticket. And I get it. A lot of questions might come up. But what if the ticket goes up? What if the ticket goes down? I know that is the scary part, which it's also risky. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of risky, and I get it, because it's like, you just kind of never know. But eventually you're going to realize, when this becomes a habit, you're going to realize that flights fluctuate, whether somebody just did a refund or whether somebody booked it. Listen, who knows? Once that ticket is booked one way, now your returning ticket, you had your fun. I get it. You don't care how you get home at this point. As long as you kind of make it back home, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you're still safe. So here's my thing. Don't stress yourself too much about that returning ticket. It's going to get paid for. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of options. You could save $100 a paycheck. Within 3 paychecks, whether it's bi-weekly or whether it's weekly. Save $100 a paycheck if it's weekly. That would accumulate $300 within 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? And bear in mind, it's just a returning ticket. So like I said, open your options to different airports. Open your options to different airlines, different time frames. And trust me, within a month, that returning ticket will be booked. Now, I know it's like, all right, where am I going to get the money to find my stay? Always look at where you're going. A lot of countries, a lot of islands, they specify in certain stuff, whether it's hotels or Airbnbs, whatever you kind of feel comfortable with. Whether you're going with a group of 4 or, like I said, you're solo, trust me, I get it. Sometimes going with a lot of people sounds very hectic and crazy. And it kind of works out for some people, best believe. Like, everything is kind of like half, It's like pretty much stating like, hey, if I should go somewhere with someone and the hotel is $800 for 2 people and it's $800 for 1, it kind of saves you a lot of money when you do the math. It's pretty much $400 per person. It doesn't sound that alarming. So do consider sometimes that, hey, like if I have a friend that I know is willing to get up and come with me, or, you have a group of friends that this is also their interest and they have the time and they have all of this situated. Sometimes it could be hectic, but we all adults here. If it does work out the way it should, it's pretty much easier traveling with a group of people. But hey, listen, if you are a solo traveler and, it seems a little hard to come across how much it is, let's always think about this. Are you staying on the resort or are you trying to experience the outside life? And reason why I say that is because if you're trying to experience the outside life of this country, island, wherever you are, you kind of don't want to put all your interest into the hotel. Reason why I say that, people pay $3,000 to stay at a hotel for 4 nights that they only sleep there. And it's kind of pointless. You get what I'm saying here? Like, you're mostly outside, So you want to break that down. That would probably be about step 5. Figuring out if you want to do a hotel or Airbnb. Figuring out, do you want to be on vacation or do you want to turn up part? That all kind of does matter. Like, at the end of the day, you don't want to put all your money into a hotel if you're going to be doing excursions that last the whole entire day. And then you're going to come and you're going to change and then you're going outside to experience the outside life. You know what I'm saying? Because you do pay a certain amount for a hotel because it's 9 times 10 is all inclusive, or the country, that's just the value of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And that also plays a part in doing your research. A lot of research is required. I get it. You got to experience stuff on your own, but you just want to have a little understanding before you take up and just randomly go somewhere, especially as a solo traveler. Please do your research. But hey, listen, you got to decide whether you want to do the outside life, nature, or you really just want to stay on a resort. If you really want to just stay on a resort, best believe I tell you from now, put your money towards the resort. You don't need to walk with a lot of cash when you arrive because you're sitting at an all-inclusive, little one night you might go outside. So don't stress it. Plane tickets is booked both ways at a cheaper cost in less than a month and a half. Now you have almost 3 months remaining to figure out your hotel and how much money you're going to bring. And like I said, as I was pretty much stating, kind of don't know where I left off at, but like I said, whether you're doing it as a group, whether you're doing it solo, doing your own research is pretty much the main part of understanding whether you're going to be staying at an all-inclusive or Airbnb, whether you want to do the outside life or you want to just, kind of just chill. That determines a lot because, once again, a lot of people spend a lot of money for the hotel that they don't really get to experience. But once again, if you're picking the type of travel that you kind of just want to relax, or you just want the hotel vibe, the all-inclusive feeling, and you don't really care for the outside life or to, go outside and, tour the town or wherever you could be at, well, that's all determine your next move. You're going to look whether where you're going has an outside life or it has excursions or stuff that is to your liking. And if you do feel like you want to do an all-inclusive hotel, then that's where you start looking at. You're going to weigh out your options between a hotel and an Airbnb. Bear in mind, y'all, a lot of these places, depending on where you're going, whether it's international, Caribbean island, some places are just not developed with certain stuff that you might actually like, depending on what your interest is. You could just be interested in a cabin and you'll be fine. Or you want a top of the top villa. So make sure, like I said, you do your research before you go ahead and look for where you're trying to go. Then you want to just weigh out what hotels they have, the pricing, do your reviews on that also, do your little research, see what's the issue. Then you want to look on Airbnb. Make sure when you're looking on an Airbnb, y'all, that it's in a safe and kind of secured area. It's an easy commute. A lot of people go there, and it's kind of like, it's like kind of going with your instinct at the same time, making sure that you feel safe. Now that you have all of that together, whether you're doing a hotel or Airbnb, now you kind of can budget whether you're doing it as a group or a solo. Let's just get into it. If you're doing a solo travel, everything is pretty much going based off of you. So if you do decide to go with a hotel that's $800, just kind of bear in mind you got 3.5 months to come across $800. Just because you choose to do the all-inclusive and you just want to relax. Now, you can money management $800 within 3.5 months. Whether it's bi-weekly or weekly, let's just try to deposit $200 away, whether it's in your savings or just send it or, take it out, withdraw it, put it to the side, $800. And listen, y'all, I know I get it. A lot of people try to go on vacation with a bunch of money. When you go, always have just more than enough to be able to do what you got to do. But at the same time, you want to be able to have more than enough just in case anything happens. So I know, I get it. It's like, damn, how much do I need if I'm staying at an all-inclusive? Well, this part is pretty much up to you. You just know how you are. If you're a person that is comfortable with just staying on a resort, not doing the extra, I'll always say go with more than what you would usually have, whether it's a credit card, whether it's cash, whether it's on your card. $500. If you're doing an all-inclusive, I'll round it up to $500. You have no intentions of leaving. You don't want to do no excursions. You probably just want to go to a little club or so. $500 is usually a good amount. If you are doing an Airbnb, which usually tends to be a little cheaper than a hotel or an all-inclusive, you might want to bring a little extra more cash, which that would just pretty much replace how much you would actually pay for a hotel, which will run you about to like 700. But that's the thing, you really want to do your research, because you also want to check the currency of wherever you're going to see how much you need while you're out the country. Because some currencies, $20 is a lot to them, and you might not need $700. But let's bear in mind, Airbnbs doesn't come with a lot of stuff, so you gotta get food on your own. And that's where you want to do your research at, also making sure wherever you're staying at, there's nearby foods to get breakfast, or you're probably just a person that just doesn't care for breakfast. Now your only option is lunch and dinner, which you could always go and find once you do your research of where you're staying at, the location of the Airbnb. Now that all that's in place, that pretty much leaves you to figuring out your job. Now that you have how much you're going to spend, when you're going to need to have this money by, you got the tickets out the way, you have a clear understanding of what you're doing. Now it's to figure out your job. You do have 3 months. If you are at a job that you're able to put in PTO, or you're at a job where you could call out. Let's bear in mind, a lot of people do only 48 hours. A lot of people do 72 hours. If it's the case where you are at a job that you could pick up a shift, drop a shift, or you could cover, put in, a little double, then, you don't really have much to worry about. But if you are at a stricter job that, you're unable to do such, but 9 times out of 10, PTO, you still have 4 months to put in, or 3.5 months once you decide. And listen, do not put in PTO unless those tickets are booked. You know what I'm saying? So you still have 3.5 months to decide whether you're going to put in PTO, whether you're going to get your shift swapped. If it's a weekend and you're doing it from Friday to Sunday and you only work Sunday, you know what? Maybe pick up a shift before you leave, or pick it up after. See if somebody is able to cover, call up whoever it is. See, rearrange that. You still have a lot of time remaining. And those are pretty much the steps that I follow every time to be able to have successful trips throughout the year, to be able to travel as much times. And listen, y'all, I get it. 4 to 5 trips throughout the year sounds crazy. I get it. I understand. But it is possible to happen if you just follow those simple steps. And you also have to put your mind to it, kind of take away. I never really got into this part, but if you're a person that likes spending money, like doing outside stuff throughout the time frame of booking a trip, kind of just minimizing going outside, spending money. Of course, you could grab eats and do stuff, but just be very smart with your spending as the time is coming down, cutting down to your trip. You kind of just want to keep all of that in mind. You don't need to do clubs. You don't need to do the movies. You don't need to do little extra stuff that is going to take away from your money, unless you do have the money to do that and you do have enough time. Because trust me, a lot of times you can accumulate everything that you need within 1 month, and then you have 3 months to spare. Then, that's all on you. But minimize a lot of going out, anything that could take away. And like I said, I don't think nobody needs a year to plan. You don't need 6 months to plan. All of my trips that I do takes within 1 to 2 months, and I'm out. I literally figure it out in 1 to 2 days, figure out what I'm doing, figure out where I'm going, and then I take a week or 2 to figure out if I'm going to book this ticket. And everything is accumulated to about a month that I take to do how I do it, and I'm pretty much leaving within the next month. I do not like waiting 6 months for a trip. I don't like the countdown feeling. It kind of minimizes what you could be doing, and you got to bear in mind how much money you do spend within a certain time frame. And think about it. If I'm going to be spending all of this money, I could be putting it towards something else. And those are pretty much just simple steps of being able to take these trips, back to back. And like I said, prioritize also. Yes, make sure your bills is paid. Do never think that you have to do all of this and it's a rush. Some people have higher cost of stuff. Some people doesn't have much, but that all boils down to number one, understanding how much you're getting, what you have to pay, and putting them all together and knowing how much you're looking at to be able to afford this trip. And like I said, y'all, it doesn't require 6 to 7 months to plan a trip ahead. I hate it. And you do not need expensive clothes for a trip. Literally, you don't even, once you start traveling a lot more often, you realize you don't even need certain outfits, because you're pretty much doing all of this in a certain small time frame that you kind of don't really have the time frame to spend a certain amount of money if you're going to be leaving in 2 months. Most of my trips, I'm either leaving within a month and a half, 2 months the most, 2.5 months the most. It's never exceeded past 2.5 months. So with that being said, you don't need the most expensive clothes to go on a vacation. 9 times out of 10, depending on where you're going, of course you're going to dress accordingly. And for me, I like going to the Caribbean, places where it's hot. That's just my ideal travel. Yes, you know, other people want to go somewhere where it's probably a little colder, you want to experience different weather climate, you know, then you would dress accordingly. But once again, you're doing this because this is what you want to do, not because of how people are going to look at you. It doesn't take $2,000 outfit to make it look good. As long as you have a packed suitcase, you have more than enough time. Literally just going with the bare minimum is totally fine, especially in certain places that doesn't know what you're wearing, don't have no clue what it is or the cost of it. It just kind of serves no purpose. You're really going to have fun, to enjoy wherever you go in, you know, and make the most of it. It's not really about what you have on. If you are a person that's into fashion, you already have clothes, you know, you could always mix and match your pieces. But like I said, y'all, that's just my simple steps. I know I didn't really count how much steps it is, but it's roughly around 10 steps that I take to be able to do what I do with just a regular job. And if y'all follow these steps and it works for y'all, please let me know. Like I said, subscribe and stay tuned. I will be dropping my Mexico vlog very soon. So stay tuned for that, and like, comment, subscribe.